Hawkesbury. So, yeah, Buddha and Christ interfaith dialogue is essential, in my understanding, anyway, today. We can't avoid it. In times past, we're in our cocoons. Sort of knew of other faiths out there. It's interesting, some of the people who, with the British Civil Service, for instance, went to India and how they got really interested in other faiths of India. But for most people, it was like way over there. There's a vague knowledge of other faiths. Now we hop on a plane and we're in the midst of, I've just come back from China, something, which is largely the Buddhist country, but a different type of Buddhism to other Buddhist countries. Or we can go to a Muslim country or a Hindú in Japan, whatever. So if we're faced with interfaith, we can't get away from that. And of course, the history is disastrous. Christian history, of course, is vague, etc. And then the colonizing. Colonizing is the big, when it comes to Buddhist and Christian dialogue, because Christian nations colonized. Buddhist nations, when I say Christian nations, nations that were currently the Bible, but that simple Christianity, whether they practice on other issues, but they're still, from a Buddhist understanding, they were Christian nations and they colonized, dominated, and obviously exploited nations, like Southeast Asia. So we can't get away from interfaith dialogue. Plane and we're in another culture together very quickly. So Buddhism and Christianity is an interesting one. Christianity is by far the larger of the two faiths. It's 2 billion people. Buddhists, about 600 billion, but still, that's one thing. We see a growth of Buddhism in Australia. There's a lot of interest in Buddhism, but it's a sort of a secular Buddhism, the sort of thing where you put a statue of the Buddha in your garden or on your mantelpiece or something like that. And it's an individualist sort of pursuit of Buddhist values or whatever, peace, tranquility, contemplation, that sort of thing. Whereas Buddhism itself is actually very much a corporate faith. So actual Buddhist practice is very important. As is Christianity, it's very little individual, so cut off the corporate community. I'll start off, I guess the best way to start is mythology. And mythology is, people think that's the opposite of truth. That's not true. It's just mythology is actually truth at its deepest level. You can look at that through scholars like York, Joseph, like mythology is really deep truth, which is beyond just objective truth. It's about meaning, purpose, goals, origins. So at the heart of the myths and both faiths have a commonality. You think of it as a tree. There's of course, serpent. There's a demonic figure. They're in both faiths. So we know the Christian myth, I assume, 3 or 2 trees in the garden, the serpent, which is always negative in the West. And I remember seeing once a documentary, I think it might have been Joseph Campbell, where in Burma they were kissing a deadly poisonous cobra, poisonous snake, which is incredible. In the East, the snake is the repository of wisdom. So it has the masculine and feminine. You can think of the phallic symbolism of the male symbolism and the swallows, again, symbolism feminine. It has the fire and the poison, which is the masculine thing, but has the flickering tongue, which is the waters, the feminine aspect. And it also is all that wisdom, but also has the key to eternal life, because it sheds its skin and it's new again. It'd be nice to be able to shed your skin and be new again. But of course, it's not as though the ancients were stupid enough to believe that snakes would forever. It's a myth. I think they no doubt seen a dead snake and they want to kill one themselves. But it's the myth which is the important thing. So the snake has these keys. Of course, in the West, the snake also is very intelligent. Now, I've never heard a snake speak. I've certainly never heard of a snake discuss theology. They just don't do that. But of course, in the biblical story, the snake gives these theological propositions. You know, partake of that tree and you'll have wisdom and eternal life. You know, this is so the snake. But the snake's temptation is to not be accepted as in the East, is to be rejected, because one doesn't grab it being divine. This is, to use the Greek concept, hubris. It's beyond where we should be. We don't do that. So this is West hubris, in the East it's accepted. In the East you turn inwards to find wisdom within. And that's where wisdom lies. So the symbol, if we think of Buddhism, is, I've just seen the biggest Buddha in the world, by the way. In China, it's 71 metres high. It's a big Buddha. But you turn inwards to find wisdom. And the temptation, of course, in the West is to do the same thing, but that's rejected. That's what the snake says. You turn inward. You be like me. You'll have these keys to these things. But that's to be rejected. Salvation, if we use that term, which is more a Christian term, comes from not within, but comes from without, from outside. So one finds salvation outside. One is also oriented always to the outside. In all the Western faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, one is called into the world, into an active participation. They're all political faiths. Now, the politics of each can be disastrous, mind you, or they can be liberating. And people argue with the politics of each of those faiths, but they are all political. So, Fred Noel, for instance, was right when he said Christianity is political. I still disagree with his politics. Gustavo Gutierrez is correct too when he says that he's just died actually, that Christianity is political. I have to more agree with Gustavo Gutierrez's understanding. So, but in the East, of course, one moves beyond that. It's interesting. Indigenous person here, of course, the indigenous cultures, like the Eastern faiths, one sees the eternal behind the passing present. The present is just symbolic of the deeper reality. It's almost, to put it philosophical terms, Plato. You know, that what we see is just a reflection. It's the shadow in the cave, to use Plato's imagery of the reality. Don't mistake the shadow for the reality. In the West, it's the opposite. It's Aristotelian. We talk about things being realised, becoming finding their essence, which is the realisation, and that's at the end. So we work for the better world, however we interpret that. So there's two very different views there. Satan, of course, or the devil, Mara, is in both faiths. In Christianity, the devil is always a temptation to power, to hubris. Right to the end of Jesus' life, to come down off the cross, the whole worship here, that's one of the greatest miracles ever been seen. So it's the temptation to power. In Buddhism, Mara is the temptation to misconception. So the Buddha, just for his enlightenment. Of course, it shows the patriarchy of both faiths, sees all these beautiful, buxom, lovely women being thrust at him and this kind of thing. But he has to reject that. That's unreal. And what happens is he suddenly sees them, like I be when they get like old like me. They're not so beautiful. It's misconception. Being tied up with things of this world is a virtue to be risk-free. One must develop virtue, which is through meditation to see behind the passing flow of things to the actual reality, which is behind it. Because Maya is misconception, this idea that Maya is these things are not real. You must see behind them to the reality. So Christianity, of course, the things of this world are essentially important. You work to create a better world in terms of the Aristotelian sort of things, realise their potential until we get to the end point. Of course, Christianity is the very end. It's already begun in Jesus, and it's almost like a down payment to the end, where the end times, but correctly understood, not easily understood. So it's a massive topic. You can see flying around all sorts of directions, but might be better if I had a bit of time for some questions and like direct better on what you're really interested in.
Yeah. Questions would be welcome from anyone. If you don't want the question to leave this room, just let me know when you ask it and I'll remove that from the film. But if you want to ask questions and you're happy for them to be included in the video,